Hop on it anytime you can. I mean, we could play it by ear. We've got
Do you
plenty of
want to
time.
jump onto another
Well,
one?
I'm sitting in the corner like a
I
little
know it's
kid.
the way the office is set up. Do you want to jump?
I can
All right,
go
she's gonna
on.
jump down. I'll stay with you, and she'll go down and join us.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Her
We are
office
we
is
are
just
already live.
downstairs.
Yeah, it's just
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
hello, hello.
Diana's gonna join us from her office. I kind of squeezed her in mine, and she's like, "I can't sit here."
No, it's fine.
Should we close it?
We
'Cause-
could chill before we get started. Let people come in. Give her plenty of time to hop on.
So the microphone is new. Does it sound okay? It's
That sounds
really
fine.
expensive, but I'm still setting up the audio settings.
Yeah, there's not like any reverb. It doesn't sound tinny or anything. You're coming in fine.
No, it shouldn't. It's one of those Shure SM
Ooh, I like Shure.
SM7Bs.
Sure's a good brand. They make
It-
good products.
This one was like a $300 or a $400 studio mic. I had the $50 one, the I don't know, SM58 or whatever. And I wanted something even a little bit stronger. So this thing is weird, man. It's costs more than like some of the stuff on my PC, It's like, oh no.
Oh yeah.
I hope I didn't make a mistake because it's got some weird stuff to it.
Well, it sounds great. So I hope it was a good investment. It's the type of investment
Me
I
too.
would tell somebody else to make, having audio like technician background and stuff. I used to do stuff like that in high school and post college.
Sweet.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I've never invested so much in a mic, and I had someone tell me, "Well, that's what you need to do." And you know what I mean? It's like when I was learning to play guitar, and I bought PV guitars for years. Then I realized spend a little more, and you get a lot more.
Yeah.
I like
Better-
PV, but it's a
better
rough
pickups
guitar.
and systems and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the action on the guitar is a little easier
Yeah.
to play.
When you
And then
actually
there's
try
drawing.
to
Are you an artist
fine-tune
too, or are
the
you just an
dials.
editor?
I am a jack of all trades. Yes, I do draw as well.
Nice, nice. I try to be a jack of all trades, but editing would be my weakest point. If I don't run with an editor, I'm screwed. That's where
I am-
Diana comes in. She keeps me from getting messed up.
Well, that's always good because I am a great editor when I'm not editing my own stuff.
Well, when you do your own stuff, you read all your typos as if they were correct because they were correct when you typed them, and
Yeah.
you
Well,
have issues of,
I try to wear two different hats, right? So I'll go and I'll try to be in the flow so I don't bother myself, because you have to let yourself be in the flow when you're an artist. And then I'll let it sit for like hours. And then I will come back to it with like a different hat on. And I'm like, okay, now I'm an editor hat. Now I have to be critical of myself.
It's funny you say that because I've been making comics, the way that I've been doing it, self-publishing for about 5 years now. I used to have this obsession with getting a book done as quickly as possible and moving on to the next one. I wanted to simulate a professional workflow, try to make it as close to 30 days as I could, even though I was making it more like 90 days. And with ManGai YOSHOKAN, I've slowed down and I've actually done the issues and gone back and reworked them where they needed it, where I felt they were rough, after letting them sit for a couple of weeks. And it's a 4-issue story arc in the campaign. I'm actually doing that with issue 4 right now. I'm going through the final steps of getting everything just, it's never perfect, but when you go through and you see something that you don't like, it's the great time to do it before you go to
Yeah.
press,
I think
Many of my books, my first 10 books or so,
Mhm.
I look back and I'm like, gee, if I'd gone back like 2 weeks before I printed it, I could have done this. I could have changed that a little bit,
Yeah.
So
But I think
this
it's
next
because,
project has all that.
and editors are good for that, right? And that's why, like, all
Yeah.
of us, we wish we had good editors, because the comic industry is kind of separate from the rest of the publishing industry. Like, we just don't do things the same in comics that the rest of the publishing industry does. But having somewhat
That's
more of
right.
like a novel background, I come and treat my comics the same way I would treat writing a novel. And I think that's why the graphic novel is good. So then people can come and attack comics the same way they would attack a novel, instead of like this month by
Yeah.
month based scenario.
Well, I wish that was still a model that was viable, but I don't even think if I had a team that could keep that pace, how do you sell that these days, The local comic book shops, you have to go through distributors, and it's a lot. It's a much different world when you have to try to sell those every month.
It is.
Whereas with a campaign, you can just sell a lot, you know?
Yeah, and you pretty much make sure you're only selling it to people who want it instead of just having like copies sold to stores and it just sit on shelves and never get bought.
That's got to be a terrible feeling, although I wouldn't mind having that feeling, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but like I
If
would
it
hate
comes
to
with a
have them just
paycheck.
sit there, but they are out there at least.
Yeah. Somebody may eventually buy it as it sits in like the long box or whatever.
I don't know, is it an honor if you end up in one of those dollar boxes somewhere like a few years down the road?
I think it's an honor if you end up in the dollar box and somebody actually buys your thing for $1 amongst all the other things that don't get bought.
There you go.
Yeah.
It stood out amongst 1,000 other books that were $1.
I know it's at least
Oh goodness.
slightly. Where's the link to the Discord? It should still be in the DM. I sent it to both of you.
Oh, I know what she's yelling at me. I was supposed to resend it. Ah, sorry, Diana. I was just thinking that too. I'm like, gee, why isn't she here?
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier
Probably
for you
doesn't
because I
have the
remember
link.
I sent the Discord link like a long time.
Yeah,
back,
that's
and
okay. So let me see what I can do.
we
with
were the
this.
ones that were talking for setting this up, and then your my DM is literally just the link, so it was like right there at the top.
I wasn't even sure what she was doing. She's been trying to get us on shows, and Master told her to get us on the Oprah show, but I guess that's not even a thing anymore. Yeah, I just sent it to her. She should be able to get it now.
Yeah. Well, that just means she's doing the editorial and publishing side of the job justice because she's being like a manager, getting you on everything. That's what you want.
Right. Well, and because we're married, she can deal with my crap.
Yeah.
Like a professional editor, or not a professional, but a third party editor, I might drive insane or be driven insane. I mean,
Hey, let me get her the.
I'm not an easy cookie to work with. And that's not really by choice. It's just who I am. You
She
know?
should be able to hop in now.
Come on, Diana, you can do it.
Yeah, I just have to. I have to give everybody separate roles so that we don't just have like random audience members jumping into a live stream on show and stuff like that.
Yeah, see, you're the Discord expert. I'm not even sure how that would work.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's gonna go through it.
Hey, there you are.
Hey, Diana, your camera's not on.
I haven't put it on just yet. I just got in here. Wanted to make sure it was the right room. So it's just because I don't use it that often, Discord, and so I'm really trying to get the hang of it here. Let's see here.
It's funny
Keep
because I think
talking.
everybody who doesn't use it normally, we all say the same thing when we haven't done Discord a lot. New to Discord?
That's okay. We're always like
Yeah.
5 inches away from leaving Discord for another platform. They used to be great, but they get worse and worse every day.
Well,
It's not as
it's
much
almost
fun.
like where do you go though? Maybe Rumble? No, it's certainly not YouTube because YouTube.
Yeah.
I think everybody's on YouTube and it only goes so far unless you're like mainstream big somehow.
Well, for hosting the video call for the show, we do have an alternative called Gilded, which is basically like Discord, but without all the corporate stuff that came when Discord got bought out. So they've actually been advancing instead of going backwards.
And it's just a couple of dots in the sky.
Yeah, well, welcome to
See
the
that, Diana?
vomitorium,
It's just
everyone.
like, yes.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Do you guys like to introduce yourselves and why you're here?
Sure. Diana, do you want to go first?
You can go first.
All right. So I'm Chris Tamulevich, creator and, all-in-one creator of ManGai YOSHOKAN, which is essentially a tribute to Super Sentai and many of the animes that I grew up watching. One of the kickers in ManGai is that it's based on my actual experience, which is watching anime that have been localized and westernized and not having any clue about what was going on in the Japanese versions and having this whole... It's kind of like with the Power Rangers. You have a whole universe that doesn't exist. They created it so they could bring footage over that, like, blew my mind. But ManGai is more than that, but that's where I get most of the inspiration from. It's from my misunderstandings due to bad localization. um, it's just going to be a lot of fun. So that's edited by my wife, who's the little
That would
non-camera
be
lady
me.
right there. So who are you, lady?
I am Chris's wife. No, actually, I'm Diana. I am sort of behind the scenes at this point of our company,
Literally.
literally behind the scenes. I have been editing Chris's comics since the get-go, um, which has been pretty fun. It's a very unique position to be the editor and the wife of the creator. It can pose some challenges as an editor when I want to make certain changes, and the creator is like, yeah, that's not going to happen, and you're like, but, and yeah, and because we're married, it's not like in some relationships as an editor, and I believe, Meadow, that you are an editor, you tell your client that, hey, this has to change. It just doesn't make sense, whatever it might be.
Hmm.
And that it's gotten better, I have to say. Like in the beginning, like when we first started out and I started the editing process, it was really, I mean, good Lord, if I said, that is the wrong tense of the word. You should use this. You would have thought that I like told the whole book apart. Now
Yeah.
he is much better. I have credit. Um, and I just completed my degree in English and creative writing, so I will be venturing out and doing some of my own writing, some novellas and short
Oh,
stories, along with freelancing to do some editing work. So I will be setting up a page and I'll start promoting that within the next couple of weeks. Literally, my graduation is Sunday, so
oh,
I'm
oh,
busy up
congratulations on
until.
that.
Thank you. But that's what I'm planning to do, and of course, continue to edit Chris's books and all that good stuff. We are here to talk about ManGai YOSHOKAN. So,
Yeah.
Christopher has been working on this
Yes,
since
ma'am.
August. August, I think. This is probably the longest book that he has like worked on to this date, in all honesty. I mean,
It's
he
not
has
longest page wise, it's longest
spent
time
a
wise.
long time working it out, the storyline, working out the characters, doing all of the drawing. Like he said, he is an all-in-one creator, so he does everything, all the writing, all the sketch, all the inking, everything.
Hmm.
I just come alongside and say, not sure what this plot is supposed to be, or this is really good.
Metal can probably relate to this, but it's all born from when I was a schoolboy, and I think every creator actually was an all-in-one at one point.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's just that it's stuck, like from the time when you're making your comics on 8.5, 11 pages folded in half, and you're trying to, get everything squeezed in, and oh yeah, all of that. But now, thanks to my beloved editor, I have advanced to an iPad Pro 12.9.
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
And if we ever make any real money, I've got a guarantee of getting a Wacom, one of those huge 20-something inch ones. But birthday is coming up this weekend, and he said, "Nope, you can't get that till you start making money." I said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
I'm happy with the iPad Pro, so till we make
As the
money, then
business,
it'll be Wacom.
yeah, that's not an expense. But get back to the book. It's been a very slow start for us. It's a 60-day
Oh,
campaign,
funding, yeah.
Mm.
and funding. Yeah, I'll be honest. I am disappointed. We went with a fixed goal this time. I wanted to. I felt like if we offered a fixed goal, that sort of set a precedent that we are very confident in our book. We are confident
Yes,
that it's
yeah.
a great story. The artwork is good. I personally like the colors. A lot of people love his coloring, and then we have the old other side that people are like, "Dear God, what happened?" So it's like we get people that say we love these vibrant colors. They're very different. They're very they're not your traditional superhero coloring palette, and that's okay. I mean, that's okay. So we're hoping that if we can get out there and thank you again for having us on the show, but get out there and talk a little bit about the story. Um,
Well,
people will be.
a funny thing about colors I want to mention, you must know Critical Blast RJ.
Yes.
Yeah,
Did
he
he
had us
put
on the
you on
show.
blast for it?
Not really, but it was funny because mentioned how Stan Lee was always big on primary colors for heroes and secondary colors for villains. every hero in ManGai has secondary colors.
Yeah, I noticed that.
He's like,
yeah.
"What's that about?" And I'm like, it's just the way I did it. They just
Yeah.
felt right this way. Um, in truth, the Yoshokan, which is the group of heroes, ManGai is one of them. Yoshokan is kind of like the name for the collective group. They do change colors in combat depending on their mode and, of course, their weapon they're using. Which,
It's very Sentai.
just like all the Japanese cartoons, they all
Yeah.
have their call names and their weapons are their special. I can't give any away yet, but the special cliches. There's
Yeah.
always a super sword of some kind, and uh, yeah, it's fun. I don't want to say too much yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Though I probably should be because we're not selling well. I could start just giving away issues and try to get.
I don't
We're
know
not
if you should
doing
go
that.
that far, but
No, we won't. Trust me,
Yeah.
we won't. We won't. Chris is always wanting to give things away. In case you don't know that about.
I get that impulse, especially as somebody who primarily makes a web comic because I just wanted a story out there. I've got premium
Yep.
stuff as well, but people are more likely to actually read something that they pay for as opposed to something that's free. So you really shouldn't just give things away.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's just good
Thank
business
you.
sense, and it's better
Normally,
for
I
your product
like
in the long run to not just give it away.
Right.
do like to give it away, but I like to give it away to kids. That's my
Yeah.
primary market. I think it's the most fun. But like she's talking about ManGai YOSHOKAN, we had a bunch of first issues printed up because we had a signing coming up. Of course, I started handing those out like candy because I was really excited, and so all my friends have the first issue now. She didn't like that, but
Well, no, because I had bought them ahead of time because we are going next week to it's free comic book day, right? So we're going to one of our local comic book stores here in Massachusetts as their guests, their authors. We've got a table and the whole 9 yards, and they've been advertising for us. So I'm like, this will be great. We can get at least, and it does have the first issue. We were planning to like just get them out there. And I looked and I think I ordered 15 copies. I think I got 8 left. I'm not sure. I haven't counted. So I'm like, well, Christopher dear, I'm going to have to buy a cabinet that locks because he does this all the time. He goes into our stash and I'll think, oh, I've got X amount for this upcoming show. Like we're doing the Kids Con on the 13th in Nashua.
Yeah.
So I haven't checked our thing, but and it's usually to kids or it's usually to coworkers. We work in a school setting. So if he hears or somebody shows interest, which is not a bad marketing thing. It's not, but
where the kids are concerned, if you meet a kid that's a foster kid or you meet someone who, there are plenty of poor kids out there, you hand them a book or two, it makes their day. And I know how I felt when I was the poor little kid and I would get one of those bags for $1 with the 3 comics in it. 3 comics became my favorite comics for at least a month. I remember I got Dazzler in one and Human Fly. Both comics were failures, but man, I loved them. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, they were mine. Yeah, I like to share that. Oh, it's silent. I feel bad.
Oh, sorry.
Did I say
Somebody
something?
had walked in here, and I was trying to tell them to chew off.
Sweet. All
in the
right.
middle of a show.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, oh, I did something.
Yeah, that's why I had like this. Like,
In the studio.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, get out. That's all right. What that
No,
happens
but
to
I
us.
can
Yeah,
totally
you know-
relate. I probably have only like even half of my proof copies or anything left because I just end up giving them to people. Like, Now the smart thing, if you do want to just give comics away and you want to especially get kids interested, is to give them to like pediatricians or anybody with like a waiting room for it to sit in, or
Yep.
directly to like a
That's a
kid's
good idea.
library.
I hadn't thought about that. We could drop off sets to especially the Great Cyclopean. And he's
Oh.
did you hear what he was saying, Chris? Because I noticed that you're having
I
problems with
was. No, I had to turn off the camera so I could scratch myself in the nostril area.
Oh my God, Christopher, do you see what I deal with? I can't
Well, that's
I
okay.
even.
didn't
You
want to
are
pick my
on
nose on
the
cam.
vomitorium right now. If you're gonna scratch your nose
This is
anywhere, it's here.
This is true. This is true. But in relation to Chris wanting to give out comics, we came up with a goal on our Indiegogo campaign where
Oh, yeah.
we offer a tier where if you don't read comic books, and we do have quite a few family members that are like, we just don't do that, but we like what you guys are doing. Um, you can spend $30 and get all 4 issues, and those 4 issues will come with us to our Comic Cons this year. We use a spin wheel, like a prize wheel for kids, especially. You get to spin, and our grand prize would be you won a set of these books. So we have one set that's been bought. So we have one set to give away. I'm really hoping in the next 33 days we get other people to join up and buy some copies. But this way, it helps my husband feel good because we're able to bless a child, to give a child a whole bunch of his books, and it helps people who, like what we do but are just not comic book readers, and there's a lot of them out there, or people that are just super
I'm
generous
gonna
and
feel
say,
good either way.
I will get well.
I'm
The
I'm
whole
gonna give away
point is,
books either way.
the whole
It's gonna
point.
happen
Now,
either way, babe.
stop. The
Eh,
whole point
Our
is,
famous our
if we
famous
don't
issue is
get
like,
comics, stop talking. It's my turn. If we
oh my
don't get
gosh, you're
comics,
babbling.
right? Oh my God.
Go on.
You know, strength. If we don't get comics into the children's hands, we're all going to get super old and won't be able to read because we'll be too old. So we need to like keep it going. So that is a way that we thought might help. In families, sometimes you have like 3 or 4 kids and expensive to get in, and they all want something. Come to our table. You can get something free, and putting our comics into your child's hand and your family's hand is one way to support us. So that's that tier. I'm sorry. I won't talk anymore. Go ahead, Chris. You can have the floor. Metal, you can have the floor. I'll just sit here quietly. I'll take another sip of my beer. It's Friday night. My one beer on Friday night. Yay, go me.
Hey, we're all having a good time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So now I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what my train of thought was. But no, it's good to get things in the hands of kids. I was especially coming from a family with several kids. I don't know. I used to have sympathy for single children, but now I feel sorry for them. It's really really hard to find something that everybody likes, right? So like every kid is like running around trying to get a
Yeah.
different thing, and especially with something like comics, because comics are like any other form of like literature where it is genre heavy, but it's not even just like genre of writing style, but it's also art style is like a genre of its own too, and it is really hard to find
Yep.
something that everybody likes.
And so really what you got to do is just try to find people like you more than the other stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I guess I'm saying you got to find your niche. You haven't found ours quite yet. I think that's the course for every creator until they get their IP that takes off, you know.
Right.
Um, I'm happy to spit them out and keep creating and keep building on the ones that I make. So for us, it's a nice little thing. It's better than going to bars, or I don't know. I don't hunt, I don't fish, so I don't have to spend money on that stuff. It's a wonderful place to go and retreat. Other people go places. I go to the comics, and I know a
Yeah.
lot of us do that as readers and creators.
Yeah, he just goes to his creative place and creates. So yeah, I can see that.
He gets to see the top of my head.
Mhm.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah.
lot of that. And because when you do an all-in-one, when you're doing it all, a page might take a day for an artist, but when you've got to color, ink, and letter it and all that stuff, it ends up taking 2 or 3, 4 or 5 days sometimes.
Oh, it definitely can.
Yeah.
Page spreads are incredible.
Unless sometimes you're psychotic like me. I remember it's like February of 2019. I did an entire colored book in a month, and I hated myself for it because there were some days where I woke up, I penciled, inked, colored, and lettered the page, and then went to sleep. And I'm like, please, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah, I bet there too. So have you done the
Don't do that.
24-hour comic challenge yet?
No, I have not. I haven't done that.
Okay, so I've tried it 2 years. I didn't do it. I don't think I did it last year. 2 years in a row I tried it. I failed both times. You're supposed to do 24 pages in 24 hours. And oh my God, come like hour 16, I am like so dead. And usually behind too. I'm not at 16 pages. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going 24. There's no way I'm making this.
Yeah, maybe if I was
If you ever
doing
want
it
to,
in black and white, maybe, but
that's what I did. And it's
yeah.
still, but the problem was I kept thinking I could put more detail than I could. I think the key to finishing it is just being very minimal.
Yeah.
How do you do that? When you want to draw a cool cityscape, it's like, no, I can't be minimal. But it's hard. Yeah. But if you ever want to freak yourself out, try one of those. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think
And
you
there
have
are
to kind
people
of be
doing it.
borderline psychotic to want to draw comics. That's it's no insult to anybody, being the fact that I'm talking about myself too. But I think there has to be something there.
It's one of those places where it's the easiest place to get criticism. There's
Yeah.
always someone who hates what you're doing. And then you'll get all down, and then you'll meet somebody who tells you you're one of the best they've ever seen. And it's like, okay, my ego is like flipping around like a piece of like rag in the wind, I'm up, I'm down, I'm up and down.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
So it becomes important to have like your own, if you're new at drawing and stuff, you'll eventually have your own skin and you'll figure it out and you'll find your own justifications. When you hear those praises and criticisms all in the same breath, so to speak, it's like, oh my goodness. It's a rough one for some.
Yeah. Oh, I also want to remind you that I did drop the link in the chat. The links are below for anybody who wants to find it. I have the link to your campaign. I have like your socials. I even have I think I put the link directly to your website on there too, if anybody wants to find
Yeah, I
it.
think I saw all that. Yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah. But
Thank you so much.
if you feel like dropping a link at any time during the stream, if you drop it through the Discord live stream chat, the Restream bot is a mod, so it gets put right into like YouTube or anywhere else. It doesn't get flagged.
Nice. Diana, do you have any idea how to do that?
It's just copy paste right into the.
I'll start looking around. I can figure it out. Why don't you
I can
talk
drop
some?
it into. Well, it's listed. It's definitely listed in YouTube. So on his channel, so people just need to check it out. I know it's different. Discord is different. It's not like we can pull it up in here. It's too wonky, I think.
Yeah.
Go over it, but yeah, I mean, check it out. I did talk about the
Actually,
tier.
we could pull it up in here if you wanted. Like, I could even just pull it up and watch. There's the screen share thing, and I can go over to this. And you guys could click to look at it, and it's right there on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at mine.
Oh
my
yeah.
screen.
Okay, I see it.
So we're still at 127, and that just means we're stagnant.
Rick can drop the link. I forgot that he's a mod on this channel.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick. I didn't know Rick was out there. What's up, bro?
Yeah,
Rick is out there.
Pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, he's been here. I've been looking at the chat. Donut Walled Minion has gone to bed. That's a cute name. I like that. Restream bot. I don't know.
Well, that's
who
the
that is, but
bot that forwards the chats from all. Because we're here on YouTube. We're also on Twitch.
I
It takes the Discord chat
I
and all that. Yeah. Yeah.
That is so cool that you can do that. That's all new to me, I'm learning. So that's another thing. Just want to say that because I'm finished school, I know you're going to hear this the whole time. I'm going to have more time to learn how to stream myself, more time to go into other people's shows so I can get to know other artists and other creators and hopefully other editors, and build my own thing going on under the Hero Shack stuff. But at any rate, so we have several tiers. I just wanted to pull up the tiers really quick. So we have our digital tier, which is $10, which I think is most economic for many people. There's no shipping fee. All 4 books are going to come on one PDF. The featured tier is $35, and you get all 4 issues. They are printed in full color, and there is a shipping fee for that. But let's see, the prize book for kids, that's the one I was talking about, for $30, where you can purchase the books themselves. And we give them out to kids. And what I do with that is I ask the person who buys, purchases the tier, one of the tier, purchases that tier rather. I ask if it's okay if we use their first name. So when I get a winner at the show, I will say, "Hey, Diana bought you this set of books. I hope you enjoy
Oh,
them."
everybody
And
always likes to
kind
know
of
the donor. It's good for
yeah,
them.
yeah, it's just kind of like, I think it's a nice, a nice thing for the person that's donating the books and for the kid. And then if the parents are okay, if they say, yeah, you can use my daughter's first name, because we don't know any information except
Yeah.
I email that donor and say, hey, I don't know, Kathy,
Jimmy got your book.
It
yeah,
does look like
got your
somebody
book.
did already claim that too.
Yes, yes, somebody has claimed that. So there's definitely more to claim. Then hopping down to the collector's pack. This is where you get all 4 issues times 2. Our friend Lorenzo, we used to do a special pack
Mm,
for him a long time ago because he'd like to get
everybody
2.
has. I think Rick called it the
Yep,
Lorenzo special or something. He always
the
wants two of
Lorenzo
Yeah.
everything.
special. Lorenzo special. So we just named it the collector's pack. It's 2 of everything. Not 2 of everything. It's two prints of the 4 books. The everything, because I wanted to make that clear. Everything edition is all 4 issues, the hardcover edition plus all the add-ons. So that's our biggest one. I think I mixed. Did you take? Yeah, there it is. All right, I'm sliding on the hardcover edition. So Chris, why don't you talk about the hardcover edition? Because this was your little baby.
Hardcover, yeah, it's just a compilation of all 4 issues. It's printed 11/17, or I'm sorry, 8.5/11, which means there will be borders or around it, margins, which I will be loading up with notes about each specific page, hints and tips about what's going on, pointing to little Easter eggs within the page. Is like many artists do, I hide stuff in my art all the time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Hmm.
it's funny because people don't see it, like sometimes they do. Like I have stuff that's been in out there now for years. They don't even see it. And like I can point it out and they go, oh yeah, but if I don't point it out, so
Well,
I
I'm
know
telling you,
that there are
that's
people.
that borderline psychopathy, right? It's like being a serial killer. You kind of don't want to get caught, but you also want to get caught at the same time, you know?
Yeah, like for instance, I did a pinup of Venom one time and he was stretched out across the page. In his rib cage there was this face of a screaming man coming down into his
Mm.
abdomen.
Yeah.
And it looked so cool, but people weren't seeing it. They were seeing the rib cage and all that. And then the second you'd say it, they no longer could see the rib cage. All they could see was the face. And I'm like, oh, it's that art, like Funko. Like, can you fool them? And then if you do fool them, do they lose context because now they can't see anything but what they didn't see before?
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun, but it's a tricky little way of art. It's like, you can push it too hard, too far, or not far enough.
Interesting. I think I personally love it because I think it makes it interesting, and there are other artists that do that quite well. And that sort of, to me, has always been your trademark because ever since I've known you, you've always drawn like that. We have some pieces, some pencils that you've done that are unbelievable. Unfortunately, they were not properly cared for, Christopher.
When I started as a kid, I was all comics, did some art school, and then I quit altogether for 30 years.
Mm.
So when I started drawing again, she saw a lot of surrealistic, just, just doing kind of like whatever. You just start drawing and you let it just fill the page.
Hmm.
Going back to comics was like relearning sequential art. So it's different, but I still got to have that flair. You still got to, you're going to draw a mountainside, there's got to be a thing about it that's hidden in it. If you're going to draw a building, you got to write words in the sky somehow, or there's
Yeah.
always something to do.
Well, I think it's something people should do because some people are very critical about style. I know pretty much everybody in
Hmm.
I would say like our general circles, they mostly they just want DC or Marvel house style. That's the type of comic they want to see. And I've never been a stickler about style. If anything, I like when things look weird or different or novel than what I'm used to. And you go back, and there used to be like serious like classical artists and stuff like that in comics. Like you look at like Winsor McKay making Nemo and stuff like that. And I think more people should just be bringing whatever their artistic influence in it, and then just using the language of sequential arts to tell a story.
I think a lot of times it just becomes almost a box that gets hard to get out of because you want to get the established audience out there, the established market, and yet if you come out drawing square box or square bob underpants or whatever the off brand is for whatever, like the things that really make it are not great art usually. The Simpsons, South Park, the underpants guy, underdog. I don't know, all these weird things that the kids are into that are not manga.
Oh, like Captain
They are
Underpants.
American.
Captain Underpants was
Yes,
extremely popular, and even the follow-up Dogman is probably like the best-selling comic book there is right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I hate to say it, but because I work in a school system, I see what the kids are going to. And if it's not manga, is the Scholastic, Underpants, the Dogman. And then there's a slew of, their own industry of weird little comics. What was the one, the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I think it was called.
Yeah, it was Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It was just kind of like part comic, part like short stories and stuff like that. It's very light novelish.
They're still reading them. They're still, that's the thing. They sit in these elementary school libraries. The kids read them. Then they go to their book fairs, and there's their own copies and new stuff. And it's such, I want to call it a scam, but it's not. It's just good marketing and a good business plan. But they have such a great way of selling their own stuff. It's really what we should do, have our own shows and just go to schools. But you gotta have in on that, It takes money to make money.
And it's what kids are into already, right? Instead of like trying to get them into like these house styles, it's like kids are watching cartoons. If your comic looks like a cartoon, it's far more likely that a kid who's watching a cartoon is going to pick it up and read it.
Yep. Yeah, I got to tell you, the kids are still lingering because I haven't told Diana this yet, but starting next month, I will be attending a 8-week-long comic book club for elementary school kids.
When were you going to share this with me, sir?
Just found out about it today, so sometime soon. It'll be
It's still fresh news though.
For like 8 weeks. And I actually got to join this club last year in their last meeting, and they're on fire. There's like 12 of them that love to make books that have no clue how to do it. So like they're dying to have me in there because they've seen my books, and I'm gonna get to sit there and just show them how to lay out a book, lay out a story. Yeah. So like that's what it's all about.
I'm very glad to hear that. Yay!
You know which school? It's the school I went to today. I don't want to say it publicly because I shouldn't dox the school, but where I went today. That's where the club is.
I knew where you were, and I know exactly where it's coming from because I already talked to them about it, and I said I have to get Mr. T up here so he can talk to you guys and show you. So we have an elementary school in our district that, like Chris said, is very on fire to create their own comic book. So that's exciting that you were able to sort of get that ironed out.
I connected today, and yes, it's a go. And then we're going to try to do one locally in our town, but that one we've been trying to put together all year long. And it's probably my own fault. I've probably been too distracted with ManGai YOSHOKAN.
You have been. And not only that, I've been distracted with school, finishing up school. So the two of us who approached our town library and said we'd love to be able to offer this and reached out, and we have 2 or 3 people in the community that are also authors and artists that are like, yeah, that would be super great. The library, our small town library is fantastic. They have so many things for our children, not just going in to read books, but like all kinds of stuff. So they're trying to find us. We have to let them know when we're available. And you know how it is. You're working with a group of people. Everybody's got to schedule something. So trying to get it all together, but it will come. It'll come to pass sooner or later, So we are busy doing that in the real world, as I call it, along with Chris producing books and things like that.
Yeah, and I don't know how you are, Metal, but I just keep producing. After ManGai, I've already got a plan for the next series, which is actually a Halloween thing, but I won't start even mentioning that till ManGai's done. But
ManGai.
Always got to be planning ahead.
No, see, I'm
Yep.
worse about it.
So,
I keep producing while I'm in the middle of things. It's like I should really finish that first, but there's this thing I want to work on too, and I've got like too much
mhm.
stuff running at the same time.
Yeah,
I'm
sometimes too
avoiding
much
that.
project
I have a lot of
and undone.
sketches for the next book, but like they're just that. Like Diana can tell you every morning I get up and I throw another plot idea at her because I'm trying to write something for a Halloween book, and
Oh,
every
he
morning
doesn't.
she tells me I'm getting stupider.
No, do not say that. I'm like, no, 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 that's not it. That's another thing. We're married together, live together, we run this business together, and we're both very different on how things should get done. So it's always quite quirky. So I see that he's
And she keeps me
scrolling through it.
balanced, so I don't have anything too far out there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to let
So
the people
Chris,
see some of the art
why
and
don't you
stuff.
talk about the ash can and why there's all these black marks around
So
the
the
ash?
ash
It's
can
like a
is
lot of
going to be a
redacted
handbook.
work in here.
Yes. Well, it's redacted only on the page. The actual handbook will have all sorts of details about the story. There's quite a few. Well, not quite a few. There's like 3 storylines going on in the book, and to make sure that nobody gets lost in the shuffle or anything, it's a breakdown of character by character. Some of the main locations. For instance, in the book, the teens get caught up in a haunted castle. Uh, in the handbook, it'll detail some of the secrets of the haunted castle, which is connected to fallen angels, which ends up connecting them to the source of their power, the kids' power, because ultimately these kids become the Yoshokan. And of course, the story is named after ManGai, the leader, but there are other Yoshokan and a fourth character who, for the sake of the people listening, he will fill the role of like the Green Ranger, so to speak, the anti-hero hero.
No, okay.
But yeah, there's a fourth Sentai there, so to speak, and there's there's story to be told there. To be clear, though, the 4 issues are an origin story. So when I say that there's a Green Ranger type character, his true story arc doesn't really start until after the origin. He's in the book, but he's not necessarily going to be as confrontational as he'll become.
Okay. The Green Ranger was always my favorite, so like I can respect that.
Oh, anytime you heard "Dur, dur, 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 dur," like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would go up on your spine, and you'd be like, "Here he comes!" Yeah, my son and I, because this is how bad of a freak I am. I was watching this when he was like 6 with him, and the Rangers were all right. I didn't really like them, but when they introduced Tommy, all right, a long-haired karate guy. This is perfect. I am such a sucker for
Oh
these
yeah,
things.
and
Let's
then that
do it.
time where like he just jumps into their Megazord and starts beating them up on the inside. It's like, rest in peace, David Frank.
And
Like, oh,
really, that's
Jason,
where
Jason's
we're
so good.
taking ManGai YOSHOKAN right into that same arena. That's where the heart of like a lot of my fandom comes from, and I didn't even realize it till I was thinking about what project do I want to do next. I want to touch and base with everything that I was excited about when I wasn't in comics, which means the anime and the again the localized westernized versions of them meant so much to me. So like yeah, that's where I'm tackling it.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that too. I do a lot of that stuff in my work. In fact, one of the ones I'm drawing now is basically I'm just aping off of the style of one of my favorite mangaka. So it's just like if the only thing you can't do, and I wish you could, but there's no voice acting in comics, is I wish that you could put it in a way where it's clear that the voice actor for the character changed like halfway through because they just couldn't keep them, which was very common in those old adaptations.
I mean, like you wish you could show that change in a readable format.
Yeah, without like having to do weird things with fonts, because you really should just have like the same font throughout a whole book or anything. Like,
Yes.
I guess you could maybe out of nowhere start drawing a character slightly different, and just nobody says anything about it. It's like, oh no, it's the same character. They're just different now.
I have to tell you something that I am so guilty of. I have learned that when I start a book and when I finish a book, if I'm not careful, characters will evolve in the book, and to the
Oh
point
yeah,
where
yeah.
like Rick has caught it before, where I'll be drawing something, and he'll be like, "Hey, Chris, you forgot to draw the glove on this guy," and oh yeah. um, that's why you have people overlook your stuff, I guess. But yeah, I will totally evolve characters if no one's paying attention.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like that's how those adaptations were. You know, like you're just getting used to something, and then season 2 starts, and it's a completely different voice actor for the character.
Right?
Yes.
It's
Or sometimes
crazy.
the
No,
opposite,
it does
right?
make
Because
a difference.
everybody liked Tommy Oliver as a character so much. It's like in Super Sentai, the Green and White Ranger were two different people. It's like no, we're bringing him back. He's just too good.
Yep. And he worked as both too. It did work for him. He just pass away due to
Yeah,
suicide
yeah.
like
He
last
just
year?
very
You know.
recently. It was
That's too bad.
very sad. It's
Oh,
actually
I
probably the
guess.
entire influence on me wanting to get into martial arts when I was a kid. So it's like,
That sucks. Um
It really does.
okay, that was a downer. So how has your day been? I shouldn't have gone there. I'm sorry.
no,
But I
this
did
was
love
fine. Yeah.
Tommy and always will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, that's what the handbook is. It's a description. I redacted stuff on the page because I didn't want to give away key plot twists. And when
Right.
when the books come and the ash cans there, there'll be a warning on it. You know, there are spoilers. You should probably read it after you're done reading the 4 books. But if they're like me when I was a kid, if it said it had spoilers, I read it first. I was the worst. I was playing video games and Christmas gifts before they were, Christmas Day. I would unwrap them carefully and play with all my stuff and then put them back together. And so, like, I would play with Christmas gifts 3 weeks early. I was always into spoilers.
Oh, see, I try my hardest not to get spoiled. To me, like reading somebody else's story or anything for the first time, it's like going on another adventure, and I kind of just want to experience it as it happens, like going on an adventure in real life.
Yeah.
When I have the pleasure of experiencing a story without spoilers, I love it. But I am just so tempted. Like, you could put down, hey, look, this is the latest Star Wars thing. It's guaranteed to be a hit. George Lucas came back. On the left is a book of spoilers. You can either watch the movie or watch the spoilers and then the movie. I'm going for the spoilers first every time. I'm like, no, I can't control myself. It's kind of like when you do you guys, like, I don't know where you live. I'm sure you have Wendy's, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, I hate Wendy's because single cheese is enough. These jerks have the double cheese and the triple cheese. I get up there and I'm like, well, a single cheese might not get it. I should get a double cheese. And I'm looking and like, oh, for another $1, I can get 3 of these burgers on 1 bun.
So,
And by the time it's done, I've gotten a triple cheese. And I'm like, how did I do that?
I think when you were talking about how you can't not watch the spoilers and Metal is able to control himself and I'm able to control myself. Should I remind you at Christmas time when our children were little and we would go shopping for video games? All of our kids were gamers. Yep, you should probably turn your camera off now. One afternoon, he was still at work. The kids came home and they put on the family video game thing, and they're like looking at all these games that they don't have because my husband, when I was not home, tested all of their Christmas games and wrapped them back up. And I'm doing dishes. I'm cooking dinner, and the kids are like, "We don't have. I can't remember the names of the games now. We don't have that. I wonder why it's on here." And I'm looking at Chris, and Chris is doing everything to control himself, like from laughing.
On a Wii, they
Yeah,
used to leave the little tags, the little thumbnails for all the
I,
games you played. And then you put
Yeah,
the
yeah,
disc
yeah.
and it would start. Well, all their games are up there on the menu. And I'm like, Anna's looking, going, I know those games. I'm like, yeah, me too. How'd that happen? Yeah,
yeah, he's a little.
I'm a little bad about spoilers. In fact, my
Yeah,
son has to warn me. Like, he's actually contacted me before we've gone on streams that do not spoil that movie you just saw. He knows I'll get online and I'll be like, okay, this is who killed who, and this is how it went down. And he's like, do not do that. Nobody likes spoilers but you, Dad. So he's my early warning system. If I'm going to spoil something for everybody else, he'll tell me no. Funny, you all know that about me in the family too.
Oh, yeah, we do. Everybody that's watching knows it too. He doesn't have much willpower when it comes to fun stuff like that. But yeah, so back to the campaign briefly.
Well, I was going
have
to
that
talk about
campaign.
your colors, and since you said people are complaining,
Yeah,
I think these
colors,
are
yeah.
perfectly fine. I like saturated, vibrant. Like you obviously never want to go 100% saturation, but if you're sitting at like safe 75 to 85% zone, like it's fun. It's like watching a cartoon on TV, and that's kind of what kids want. And I also kind of like that you're kind of fast and loose when it comes to a lot of the art stuff in here, because there's some things it's like, yeah, it's like watching a cartoon, but then you'll see like this house or whatever, it looks like you illustrated it just like from a children's storybook or something like that.
Right,
A lot of
right.
times and I'm working on this too. Sometimes we'll fall in love with a page and like I'll spend 3 days detailing it. Then other times it's exactly what you said. It's fast and loose and you're getting through the story and it feels good. But it's not the same. I don't want to say quality. It's not the same style. It's kind of like taking a brush when you go with paint and you go really slow on something. And then on another layer, you just kind of same brush, but it's a different effect.
A lot of times it's your motivation of what you're drawing. And your daughter Krista has pointed that out to you. We have a illustrator in the family who actually went to school for it, and she's amazing. But she'll say, "Yeah, so I can see that you took such great detail. Look at this. This is amazing. And what happened here? Would you fall asleep?" Like,
Yeah,
she makes
she's called me out before when I've slacked. She will let me know, and
it's funny.
so that's been a walking learning experience. But kind of need it, or at least I kind of need it. You know, like I like hearing that kind of stuff. It's like, all right, give me more. I'm ready to like. The worst, like the biggest thing for me has been working on hands. Is like people in the know, artists would look at my hands and go, "What the hell is that?" You know, it's like, "What do you mean? Are those sausages or are those fingers?" I'm working on it, bro. I'm working on it. You know. But
So,
when people tell you that, the important thing is not to get offended. Just listen to it, take it for what it's worth, and adapt it if you can. You know, if they give you good advice, follow it.
mhm.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
can be hard for artists, though. We get stuck in habits sometimes.
We didn't talk about the tiers either. I mean, not the tiers, the add-ons. So the add-ons are some really cool looking t-shirts. We have the ManGai YOSHOKAN logo, which Chris, you said you said it's not a cat. Somebody asked you if it
Okay,
was a
so the
cat. What is
ManGai
it?
logo is an MG in a real distorted way.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I designed it to be similar to the Punisher logo, which is simply a white thing on a black background. And I thought it would make a great T-shirt. One thing I have found is women always think it's some sort of cat.
Yeah.
Like the boys think it's cool, but every woman who's asked me about it says, "What's that cat thing about?" And I'm like, I guess the M looks like cat ears to them.
You know, it actually
That's
looks
fine.
more like a fox mask to me. You know, like those Japanese like kitsune masks. It looks more like that to me than a cat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay
And it
with
was
that because like it's such a basic symbol. I'm like, what
it's
you
an
see in it
M with
is what it is.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was designed basically to be a recognizable, simple icon, and I had the MG in mind for ManGai. But people have seen a few things in it, and like the fox is new. But I like that. I like that more than a cat. I'm like, it doesn't look like a kitty kitty. What are you talking about?
hmm
Next time I'm going
And
to
then
tell them it's a fox.
the second t-shirt I like too. It's just an art print. My favorite is the third one, the Punch Puppy t-shirt. I love that one. I think that is a very basic design that almost anybody can wear. It's very cute and cuddly looking. So
Well, should I tell them what punch puppies are?
you can, yeah. I don't know if you have told him.
I haven't told him, but punch puppies are basically the creation of Bryce the Bold, who's the fallen angel who's taken residence under the castle. And they are actually the source of the claim that the castle is haunted. But the common person doesn't realize that there's a flock of these little gerbil type round, human footed with weird
And
hands
bangs.
coming out there. They don't realize that there's these creatures. But these creatures are very special. They're connected to Bryce, and they are behind much of the lore of the castle.
Yeah, almost
They
like
do
those
play a pivotal role.
Ronald McDonald fry trees.
A little bit, doesn't it? It's well,
Oh,
if you look at it, it's designed to be a very simple plushie doll, be added to the campaign if it ever becomes successful, or to the IP. But the character himself, herself, there's a few of them. They play parts in the story. Since when the kids are locked in the treasure vault right before they get their powers, they're locked in there with a punch puppy who's there to help guide them through finding the device that gives them the power. Otherwise, you just have kids in a safe and they don't know what they're looking at. So yeah, they're cute little characters. They kind of play the role of Tweaky from Buck Rogers, or
Yeah.
well, who's the guy? Power Rangers, stupid robot. I forgot his name.
Alpha
I love
Pie.
him. Thank you. Yeah. But that role, the computer kid that's in the van, that type of guy, that's what they play. A lot of people think she's cute. That one's a she. I don't know why I keep calling her a he.
Oh, it would be a great toy
but
too.
so
I
I was
remember, like you can make like the center part almost all fluffy or whatever. But like you remember those toys that had like the bendable arms and stuff like that. If you actually had like big
Yes.
bendable noodle arms, that would actually be a great thing to have.
Exactly, brother. Yes.
so
And
our hope is to actually get some made, but again, we need support from everybody out there to back the
the thing is, if it's not selling, we're not going to like go ahead and make plushies for something that's not selling yet. A lot of the lack of sales comes down to a lack of marketing. And I think the mistake that I made there is that I'm spreading myself a little thin, because I love marketing, but like now I should have had like 6 or 7 videos promoting it, and I've only done like 2. It's been because I've been sidetracked with, upgrading issue 4.
Yeah.
In a couple of weeks here, it's going to be the last 30 days, and then I'll be focused a little more, I believe.
We're at 33 now, so you need to get focused.
I'm over that mark already.
We have 3 days before it's the halfway point, Mr. T. You need to get your ducks in a row.
Well, I'll have 1 video by then. I won't have many.
Well, and then see, I will be focused only on one thing, and that would be you and getting the things done. Did you do what I asked you to do? Did you send that logo out to our show coming up? Nope.
I'm sorry, you're coming in fuzzy. Are you okay?
She's not going through a tunnel.
I'm hearing her.
This is what I deal with, okay?
I'm sorry, I'll do it right after the show. I have it right there on my screen.
Okay, good.
Really do. It's right here. My iPad.
Anyway.
So this is the workings of Hero Shack Press. This is the inside, man. You're seeing.
You know what? At least you have somebody that can like yell at you to do that stuff. I have to remember to yell at myself, and then I'm often forgetting to yell at myself.
They have an app for that?
I'm sure they do, but I'd probably just like mute it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you
have control. Yeah.
Well, listen, I was looking at the YouTube chat, and Rick said, tell him about the times when Chris was coloring outside the lines and he caught it.
Oh my God. So Rick has created this situation for me. He saw this like arm and it had a little color hanging out, and he told me about it. And actually, I think it actually happened a few times. He kept pointing out these little imperfections in my coloring. Now there is the Rick process, and that is at a point in my production process, start going through and looking really close at all the color to black line. And I try to make sure everything is perfected, because if it's not and Rick sees it, middle of anything, you'll suddenly hear, hey, Chris, the brown in that girl's hair slipping below the line. And I'll go, no, it's not. And I'll zoom in. And sure enough, he's found like the 4 pixels that went over the line. And I'm like, so now I have the Rick process where I stop, look at all the colors, and make sure. Yes, I try to make it Rick passable. because Rick is actually, he's got a great eye for it, which is why he sees
Yeah.
it. But I'm like, how did you see that?
Yes.
Like, I had a thumbnail up there, and this thing was like this big on the big one, and you're like, Rick's like, there's something wrong with that hand. I can see the color coming out the finger. He's
Well,
right
the
every
thing is,
time.
like,
It's like, all right,
99% of people will never notice. Like for most of the time, it does not matter. Uh, Being an editor, I'll notice that stuff. Even in
Yeah.
my work or other people's. But most of the time, it doesn't matter. The only time I'm ever really critical about somebody is if it actually harms the readability of the image, which most of the time it doesn't, or B, if you defined clear panel borders and for some reason your color is going outside of the panel borders, that's when like the editor has to come in and do it. He's like, no, you have a border here. You have to erase anything going outside the border.
why would you
Exactly.
go outside the border? What effect is that supposed to be?
Having
It's
too much fun.
Yeah, I
laziness.
agree with those.
No, they
Yeah.
like to go outside the lines, guys. Come on, you know there's always those
I
kind
have
of
to be
people.
honest with you, like, it's weird. Most of the books I get are pretty decent, even if they're not the most talented creators. They try hard, and you can tell. Occasionally, I've gone off on the creators sometimes. I've gotten a book that was so lazy, and I've written the guy and been like, "Did you forget how to use an eraser? I can see your pencils right there under your inks. Hello," and like, it's
Yeah, that's
sometimes I
but
just don't know what they're thinking. It's like, we're selling these things for money. Let's all try to do the best
And that
job we
could be
can.
cool if like you're a good
Right.
artist and you're doing it intentionally, like you're with the pencils and thing. But most of the time, like you could tell it's like no, that's just you being lazy or you don't know what you're doing or whatever.
Oh, and this situation was a lot of that, and I didn't understand. It hurt my feelings even because as a customer and as an indie creator, when I get a book, even if it's not going to be ever going to come anywhere near Marvel DC, and even if it's forever going to be bottom of the barrel independent, you can feel the love off of it. That's what counts. And if they're trying hard, you're not going to see consistencies where suddenly they didn't erase the pencils, even though they did 2 pages before and 4 pages down in the book, it's perfect again. But why they cheaped out on these pages, I don't know. I don't know what happened. But it's
Something in
There
the
has to be
process.
intent to it, there has to be intent. Because I'll do that sometimes. I'll leave some of the penciling on the edges and stuff because I like this grungy feel to my art. But I'll also still go in and I'll like clean up anything that should be like in the blank faces, the spaces of the face and stuff like that. And I just don't get.
Do you
why
remember who Gene
there's, like,
Colan was?
No intent. Do I?
Well, Gene Colan was an artist from Marvel, and for a while he was doing this technique where it was all pencil, but they were reproducing it in the comic. I guess it was being shot in the darkroom in a certain way.
Okay.
It was fascinating. It was still a comic artist, but it was not a comic, even though it was a comic. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but nobody was doing this like gray tone pencil thing, and it was so neat. It was also kind of lazy too, because it was like everybody felt cheated. We were like, well, where's the inks? I don't think that was ever the point.
It was a technique that he had developed and wanted to do.
But it didn't make it, obviously. Otherwise, everybody would still be doing it. But it was a neat experiment. And I always kind of appreciated it, even though I didn't really understand what it really was at the time.
Yeah, it gives you a unique
Right.
voice to the art. And I think that's actually what people should be aiming for when it comes to writing, when it comes to illustration, whatever art form they're in. They should be focused on developing their voice. And a lot of them are just too focused on, well, I need to do this or I need to do that instead. And they end up cutting corners and it ends up hurting their voice instead of like developing a very consistent one from the beginning.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
That's kind of funny you say that, because that's true. Like in anything, if you're in wrestling and you want to make it fast, you can learn some tricks. You can make yourself buff on some steroids and go out there and do it. But if you take your time, you'll know the moves, you'll know how to work a match, you'll know how to lose properly or how to win properly. Shortcuts always come up, and in comics, it's even more evident. You're right.
Right.
Like the hardest thing right now for me, and I'm getting better at it, is backgrounds. 5 years ago, that was such a glaring weakness, and had to work on it. That's what it's about, You got to focus. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm babbling now.
And I
You're
like
babbling,
backgrounds,
so
but I hate backgrounds.
why don't you let Metal talk?
I think
It is his show, right?
when it
Yeah.
comes, especially backgrounds, I think there's a very good lesson, and I like to study popular manga because obviously if it made it, then they were doing something right. And you notice they don't put backgrounds in like every single shot. So I like to try to be deliberate about when I do and don't include a background because you want to save a lot of time. You don't want to be sitting there just making super detailed backgrounds in every single panel, especially if it's just like people talking outside and you're like, well, it wouldn't actually make sense for
God,
anything
isn't that the
else to be in
worst?
view. Yeah.
It's like, how do you put a background there that and not? Ugh.
Am I going to make this an overcast day and just paint clouds in every single picture just so it's interesting? Or if like you know that a speech bubble is just going to take up half of the panel anyway, and this is literally just an aside. It's not the important part of the page, so you got to skip that there. But then you got to like if something's going to take up anywhere between a third to half the page, or if it's an establishing shot, like you do really need to go all in on the background there, and you can't skimp out.
Establishing shots of something that I dread because when I was doing it 5 years ago, I had this problem where I would start zoomed in and kind of work my way backwards so that people could see where they were. Now I zoom so far out that it's almost like, okay, I got to get back into mid shot, like because like when I drew the castle at first, I loved putting the castle, the hill way back so you could see that it was way far in the woods, and I'm like, I don't need to do all this. I need to get closer so I can show more castle, which I actually did it. But when I first was drawing it, everything was like, I've got to establish because I was negligent on establishing shots a few issues back when I was doing Cyclopean. I thought I did a bad job with it. Now I'm over hyper focusing, and it's like you said, you want to put detail in on those, but then you zoom in and it's like, okay, these guys are talking. I don't really need to show every crevice of this wall. I just need to imply a wall. You know?
Yeah. Or like this guy here with the binoculars. It's like, yeah, you want to show that there's like bushes behind him, but you don't want to go in and start like detailing all the leaves in the bushes because they're not the important part of the shot. Or
And look, here's the buds from spring, and there's an ant. You can't really make them out, but that's an ant in there. I'm sure of it. Although sometimes I will go that extreme, and that's really where things get crazy. I just finished this montage of all the monsters coming into the castle. And I'm still not done it. I mean, I could publish it. I still want to go in and do a little more shading, and I have a couple of areas where I'm like, I could squeeze one or two more guys in there. Really trying to draw like hundreds of evil clowns storming the castle, which is
so
a challenge
probably
because
saw
clowns
this
get
one.
very common looking.
And I bet
What's
it
that,
probably
Matt?
has a lot to do with the influence. But these kids walking into a castle and having a bunch of monsters is giving me heavy Big Bad Beetleborg vibes.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's one of the influences. Basically, when you read the book, 70s, 80s, and 90s, you'll repeatedly go, hey, this has a minute. I think, yes. And you'll never hear me go, no, it's more than likely you're right on the
Oh
dot.
no, people
'cause-
should own up to their influences because everybody is a chain of influence going on. Like even
especially
Michael
with ManGai, because
Moorcock
that's
with
half the charm.
Elric said that he was influenced by like Solomon Kane. Like own up to your influences.
ManGai, that's half the fun is like, do you recognize where this might have come from? Did you
Yeah.
realize that Speed Racer was even an influence on me? Oh, I just gave another one out. Never mind. But yeah, they're everywhere, and I just can't help but at least have a little fun with this project. Now, the next one is going to be more of an adult horror, so I won't have so much fun. I deserve to have fun, and the reader deserves to have fun. So that's what ManGai is about, And it's still dark enough. I still play with the fallen angel, demonic side of the story because I don't like having baddies without having serious baddies. I like them to be weighted, like, and with the Power Rangers explicitly, like Rita was pretty badass. At least even for a cheesy, stupid bad guy, she was throwing these super soldiers down there, and then she'd make them grow, and they'd fight. And somehow Angel Grove always evolved into like a Tokyo-looking city. It was amazing. She was very powerful.
Yeah, well, actually, I
So
think
that's
that was
where I'm
probably
coming
one of the strengths of shows like that is they would take the main overarching villain and make them like the serious threat. But then they could have fun with all of the little monster of the week villains that the main villain actually showed out. So you can have your goofiness and your seriousness at the same time.
It was amazing how once it got you to accept some of it, you started accepting all of it.
You just buy into the
Not necessarily like, oh, this is as good as the greatest sci-fi, but once you knew where Power Rangers was going to peak, you could follow that line and like enjoy it. It was actually a fun little
and the camp
serial
was kind of
sci-fi.
actually one of the things that you started to grow to like about it. It's like, oh, I like it because it's campy. But it's because it's genuine. And I think that's the real thing, right? There's a sincerity to it. They're not like poking fun at things because they dislike it or trying to be ironic. Like you buy into the world, it's sincere, and you know that the world is going to reward you for buying into it by remaining sincere. And I think that's what people
You're right.
want from their stories for the most part.
So I have to ask, is that MK2 as in Mortal Kombat hanging on your wall?
That's not hanging on the wall. That's a arcade cabinet.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I'm into emulators. I think you're a step higher than me there. Those are
Yeah, those
cabinets.
are arcade one up. You can usually find these things at like Walmarts and Best Buys and stuff like that. And it's basically
Oh,
just
really?
like a
You've got a
Raspberry
bunch of
Pi
those?
that has the emulator
Yeah.
in there, and you just build it yourself when you get home. Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Chris,
You've got a
no,
bunch of those. Well, honey, the
no.
one-up ones are like, is that like the 3/4 or are they full size?
Well, they come with stands to make them full size, but yeah.
But you got to help me here. They're a little bit small. They're smaller than arcade machines,
They are
right?
not as wide. And if they don't
See,
have
honey,
the
they're
razor,
smaller.
they're smaller too. They were originally made for you to like bring them in for kids and stuff. If an adult could sit on a stool, but then they realized that yes, most of the people who are buying them are adults because they're the ones who remember those games. So they had to start selling like razors so they could be like adult height. But
That's
even
so
talking about the
funny.
taller ones is there's like Killer Instinct and Street Fighter over there.
Yeah.
You know.
It's that.
Well, we have a grandson now, and it probably behooved me to get one or two or three or five of those.
Grandson's 9 months old, honey. You got time. Just saying. He's 9 months
I know
old.
it's going to take him at least another 6 months to walk.
No, he's
You
you
leave.
wait. I know a guy. You don't want those. They're fun. They're nice. They look nice. They have the images on the side that remind you of the actual cabinet and everything. But I know a guy down in Florida who makes like arcades for people, and he can load up like 1,000 games or whatever in there for you. Right. Now, shipping might be the problem, but like for the same cost as one of these, you just have a cabinet that plays
Right.
everything.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
There you go,
have
Chris.
I do like the Retroid Pocket things, and I did get a RetroPie, which is probably a lot like what you were using. But yeah, I should get a good cabinet. If you get multi cabinets, then it looks really cool. That looks like an old arcade.
Yeah, we've got like
It's great.
I have the normal lights on because I'm streaming right now, but there's like multicolored lights and stuff, and there's like LEDs around on the
It's so
ceiling.
cool.
Kind of ends up looking like an arcade in here.
You don't happen to live in Massachusetts, do you?
No, I'm down in Texas.
Yeah, well, we won't be hanging out anytime soon, but anytime I'm in Texas, man, I'm coming to visit.
Time
That
in
is
Texas.
sweet, man. That is a sweet setup.
So, what time do you normally stream till? Are you
Oh no, so this is a this is off schedule
Okay.
stream, right? We scheduled it for you guys as I do. Our normal schedule is only for like an hour and a half on Wednesdays and Saturdays, but if somebody wants to do an off schedule stream for promotion, all I ask is a minimum of an hour, but we can go as long as you still want to keep promoting things or talking about stuff. So it's on you guys at this
Right.
point.
No,
Well, let me ask. You said Wednesday and Saturdays?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to start including you in my viewer like lineup because honestly, I didn't know anything about you, and I knew that you were affiliated with Rick as an editor of some sort. I know Rick loves you, so I'm like, know much about metal, but like now that I've talked to you, I'm like, okay, yeah, I could watch. I could get. Yeah, this is all right. You know.
Yeah, I've seen you guys
Um.
around. We've just never really had much of an opportunity to engage with each other. Like I always recognize seeing
Yeah.
like your avatar with your ManGai character there. Like I always saw you
Yeah.
around. We just never really interacted.
It's hilarious. Like, so this has been so good for my image of you because metal. I was literally thinking like I would get on here and you'd be like a guy from Iron Maiden. Hello, mate. Rock and roll.
You know what's funny is I
And
have a
you could.
friend who, because I always wear like this gi and stuff, right? And the way I look, he always says I look like the lead singer of Iron Maiden. Every single time it comes up, you start
Oh my
Was
God,
about
that's
to say, you remind me of you actually could pass for the Judas Priest singer too because of the haircut.
Yeah.
There are guys who have the short haircut. It's just like when I think metal, I think like probably like Metallica, Twisted Sister. Like Twisted Sister
Mm-hmm.
would be the glam, and Metallica would be the grunge. Maybe Slayer even. Slayer was kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
So they had a bald guy. So
It's very common. It's very, very common in metal to have
yeah,
like people with like shaved heads and stuff like that.
so
It's either
funny.
really long hair or no hair at all. There's like almost no in between.
the
Between there's
in-betweeners
no
are usually the posers who quit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
not that
Or
I'm calling
like
people
they're losing
posers,
the
but
hair, but they can't deal with it. So it's like, no, it's still there.
yeah, yeah. You get the comb overs and
Yeah.
ready to use it. They're not ready to quite get rid of it. Sometimes that in between, like I've seen guys that have just a couple little strands coming up the top of their head, but they still feel like, they have hair and it makes them feel good. They're not ready to go with the whole zip
Yeah.
dude on
Well, I
there.
think that's the real metal thing to do is like when you realize it's going, it's like screw it and just like shave everything off.
Yeah, yeah.
beat nature to it. It's like,
Yeah.
do you think you're gonna? No, I'm gonna take
I'm in
over.
control
Nope,
here.
that's right.
There you go.
No receding hairline's getting me.
No way. Bad.
So
What else we got to
what
talk
else can
about?
we
Let's
talk
talk
about?
about it
Yeah.
before a few more minutes.
Well,
Hmm.
I mean, I would just encourage anybody out there who's on the fence, jump in. Man, guy is going to be a blast.
Oh, it looks really fun.
Um,
I like that there's like
and if we
prizes,
don't make the
'cause-
funding, I will find a way to re-release it. But I'd really like to get it out into people's hands this July. Um, Technically, I could go to press within a week with what I have. I'm taking the time to perfect it. What I have is great, but what I will finish with will be awesome. I just keep redoing pages. I go back and if I see something, it's anything from like the layout to maybe I don't like the way a guy's eyes look or whatever it might be, and
So
becoming
by the time the
perfected.
campaign is over, you have had the opportunity to review everything, and it will
Yes.
be literally it'll go to print the minute the campaign is over. So there's not a whole lot of downtime
Oh,
between
that's great.
finishing up pages and stuff like that. It is done. Chris, like he said, is just sort of reviewing things. But yeah, Metal, I agree. It is a fun story. I encourage people, a lot of times people it's tough. The financial world is crazy and there's expensive for everything, but the PDF is a great way to get a taste of it. Check it out. It's $10. And then the 4-pack, the featured tier is also really good if you like. I don't like reading online personally. I like to have the book in my hand, be able to go out into the
Yeah.
yard, sit in the attic and stuff like that. So for me, it's
Oh,
always
and that's
physical.
something to mention too. This isn't a one edition thing of 120 pages. This is 4 books of 120 pages. And the reason I did it that way was because I ordered Immortal Mask last year from Denali Press and it came as 3 issues. There's just something about picking up an issue and going on to the next issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to do that with this. So it wasn't just one book that they're looking at. When I say they, I mean kids really thumbing through. I wanted them to have the experience of issue 1 is done. Now I'm going to issue 2.
Well, I think it also
And then
depends on
issue
like
2 is done.
the story you're writing, right? And yours is built around issues, right? So if you are
Yeah.
writing it as an issue, you shouldn't just compress them as chapters until like I don't know, maybe you've done like a whole volume's worth, like 12 issues or something. Then you
Right.
can make like your omnibus or whatever. But until then, it's like if it's written as issues, you should put them as issues. If you wrote it as a graphic novel, then you should put it as a graphic novel. You shouldn't try to like mix your peanut butter and chocolate if it's not ready to be a Reese's.
Right. No,
Oh, I
no,
like that. That's a nice one.
that's a really good. That's a really good point. So it is 4 separate issues, totaling about 120 pages. Rick earlier said it's going to be longer than the Trolls book that we did, which was an anthology of a variety of short stories about trolls and whatnot. And it might just be a little longer than that. And then the ash can, we've decided, I don't think we've changed the campaign yet, but the ash can, anybody that backs physical,
End up getting it as well.
be
And you can
getting.
still use it as an add-on as well, but we're going to throw it in every pack, mostly because we were using it as a sign-up incentive, and most of the sign-ups didn't actually come in back yet. Now I'm just
Right.
like, okay, we'll just hand out this ash can, because actually the ash can is a blast. We're just taking art from the book, ripping it of the color, of course, and then writing, summaries of what this is about. And
You
for
know, that,
me, that is just like actually become a reference point. I forget a detail about a character or something, I can go back into the handbook and see it, which is nice as a writer when you're going through stuff and you're like, oh yeah, what town was he born in, for example. I mean, that's not necessarily what I look up, but it's good for artwork too. What's that guy look like? Oh yeah, I have the reference right here. Yeah, there we
It's
go.
also always nice in those handbooks when you find out like really silly things about a character that you just never considered, like King of Fighters, where like Terry is from Southtown, USA. It's like that's from Year Without a Santa Claus. Like it's not even in a state or anything. It's just Southtown, USA. And you just like you learn these weird tidbits about characters that stick in your head forever, and it kind of makes you more attached to them than you would have been otherwise.
yeah.
Right, yeah, it creates the grooves of individuality.
Well, and it creates a relationship between the reader and the character, and that's important if you want readers to keep coming back. You got to create characters that are, believable, or it's something that I can envision myself doing, or in my imagination, like with this particular book. Every young person would love to have extra powers to be able to do stuff that they can't do in their natural
Yeah.
person. So it's important. Characters are very important to your
I
story
think
because
that's a
without a good,
common fantasy for all comic people too, though.
I think well, I don't think it's just comics, is I don't
I think that's
typically,
just how you write a story.
it's how you write a story, but I mean, I do think that characters, regardless of what type of genre, what type of book you're writing, are key. I mean, you need to have
But
accessible
when you
characters.
said kids would love to have extra powers, I
Yeah,
think like that is part of
maybe
the reason I
that's
still read any comic. Like for instance, Iron Man, the big draw for Iron Man has always been, maybe I could do that one day. Maybe I could buy that stuff and build a suit. Like it's just
yeah,
something like it's the
we're
male,
not.
like,
So Metal's gonna have to close the stream now because Chris is going down. Like you're telling everybody he wants to
what
be.
did I say?
You
No,
want to be
I always
Iron.
laugh at Iron Man too because like Iron Man is like quintessentially a kid character in the sense that like
Mhm.
everything about him is only appealing when you're a kid. But then
Right.
you get older and you
Yes.
start understanding things about physics and you're like, I'd rather be the people with like the magic powers because there's no way a human body could take the G's that Iron Man's suit does or anything. And he's supposed to just be a normal character. He should be dead 10 times over.
Yeah, how many times has he just gone through concussion blasts and just no problem? The big thing with him was when I was into him as a kid, still having to like plug into walls to charge up.
Yeah,
His
yeah.
armor still had to be like snapped into place and put on. It wasn't growing on his back like a nanobot.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I've always
I
like
didn't like the
Sentai stuff, like the influences on your work, because even if they were trying to be like technological and everything, there's always some like weird pseudo magical element to it. Like with Power Rangers, there's like the morphing grid or anything, and it's like okay, there's magic. I can bypass this. It's like they give you magic powers. So if you punch this otherwise normal person with the force of a race car going 100 miles per hour, the suit
Yeah.
is magically protecting them, and that's why they don't die. I like that a lot more.
Right. Yeah.
Magic's great. You don't have to explain
Is
magic.
that noise?
I have no clue.
That's your text, isn't it?
That's
Anna, was that your text?
yeah, it was. Well, the sound is up and on my
Recognized it. No, I just recognized
yeah.
that bell. I'm like, oh God.
I'm having this a sneezing fit. I don't mean to keep sneezing. I'm like, I don't know. It's allergies with the pollen around here.
Oh,
And
it's
I'm
been
like
horrible here
sneezing.
because it's been raining nonstop all month, so it's just been fluing everything up into the air.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be raining all next week and raining tomorrow and Sunday. I'm like,
So
I just want the
awesome.
warm sun, and I want the warm sun, and it's just
The April
have
showers bring May flowers.
God. Here we go.
Yeah.
That's what he's been saying
Yeah.
to me. Yeah. Okay, Chris. Thank you. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and
So
like
check out
flowers
May.
bring pollen.
Yeah. Yes,
Oh,
that's
that's
right.
right.
Um, but yeah.
I
So
like
check
pollen.
I hope people will check it out. And,
I do too.
the one thing I find as, the person in the background, the one that's editing, sort of running the business, is trying to get people to give us feedback, honest feedback about like you look at the campaign and, you may have some things or opinions or whatever. We want to know. I mean, if not you, I'm not saying you, Metal, but just
No, no,
in,
I'm just
people
scrolling
come and
back
check.
through so people can see the campaign some more.
Yeah, but no, just people, if they go to the campaign after they've listened to the stream or the other streams that we've been on and they're like, it's just not for me. I want to know why. What is it about the campaign that's not drawing you in? Was it the layout? Is it, the
I
way it's
gotta tell you,
presented?
every time you've asked for it, you've gotten some comments. So maybe we'll get some tonight. Maybe somebody will drop a
Yeah.
message.
One said about the colors in one of the streams we went to.
Well, we've had different people. Like I asked, so I got a little bit of criticism about a week ago. I just thank you. And I was in a chat and I was like, so I don't know if I should color or not because my colors were tripping this one guy out, and they were like, no, I love him, and I'm like, oh, that's one of those things where you're like, okay, so you should hang on to your style, and you just have to gauge whether or not how much you should adjust. Like I am taking efforts to make my colors palatable, pun intended.
Yeah.
But not so much that I lose my style. It's weird, it's like you got to balance it. And
I think the harder
You've
part
always been.
is figuring out
Go
if
ahead, Metal.
somebody's in your demographic or not, right? So, because you can ask random advice from almost anyone. And
Yes.
maybe the person's a comic reader, but maybe they're just not part of your demographic. And they're like, well, if you changed everything to suit how I normally like stuff, then I'll be your demographic. It's like, yeah, but then I might not even be telling the same story that I was telling otherwise. So, you
right,
really
yeah,
need to
it's
figure
like
out
a
your
metal band
demographic.
trying to appease a country fan, right? You
Yes,
start putting in
exactly.
country music, and suddenly they're not a metal band anymore.
And that's a really good point. And so I think for me, when we're on these shows that are comic related, um, and your audience, the people that follow you, we want to know, like, did you look at the campaign and you're like, I just don't have the money for it. I'm just not, story's not grabbing me. The art's not, whatever it is, it's going to only help us improve. We're not afraid of feedback. Some people have a really hard time with feedback. We're not one of those uh, creators that are afraid of feedback.
Well, I think part of that being able to take the feedback is because we are married and we're very close, we're very together. I think one of the
Mhm.
problems is when a creator is alone, it can be overwhelming. When I get down and I look at you, Diana, and I say, oh my gosh, I can't believe what this guy said, and just remind me, well, it's one guy, and you have other people looking at it that like this thing, and
Yeah.
when you're alone, it becomes harder to take that criticism, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah,
it's
I
hard to
don't
be
know.
grounded.
yeah, it is. It's hard to, it's hard to take it. But in all honesty, calling yourself a creator or an author or anything, whether it's a comic book, I mean, that's just part of what it is. I mean, you're
You
going to get
invite critique,
criticism.
whether you want it or not.
Exactly. Thank you. Exactly. You invite critique. It's like all these Hollywood stars, like, okay, you want to be a star. Well, people are going to watch you very closely and they're going to want to know everything about you, you know? So I just take it with a grain of salt. If somebody hates it, okay, not your cup of tea, that's fine. I respect that. Thank you for letting me know. But I guess what I'm looking for is like, okay, Sarah, we are almost halfway through this campaign. We have three people that have taken
Cheers.
a leap of faith. Every other campaign, we've had four campaigns previously on Indiegogo, and they've all been funded. Granted, they were flex goals, and granted, we only did ask for $500, but we did get 500 and usually above. So I'm trying to figure out what it is about this campaign that it's sort of stalled out for the last, I'm trying to,
Yeah,
I'm really
you need to do some
by it.
market research, basically.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
that's what it is. Um, I don't know.
Yeah, I
I don't
know
know.
the fixed goal
I'll
because I
probably
tried running a campaign way back with a fixed goal. It is kind of a almost like a 50-50 of whether it invites or scares people off because once you get to a certain point with a fixed goal, you're more likely to get funded and get people because they'll see like you're on your way to getting funded. So you're like, oh, I don't have to worry. This whole thing's gonna get funded. Even though like the whole point should be like, well, if
gonna
like
get
they
my
don't get
stuff.
funded, you don't ever pay any money anyway. So this should be the safe bet. But it's like trying to get into like, the psychology of people. While like if you're not past that halfway point, people are less likely to jump on because like, oh, this thing isn't going to get funded anyway, so I'm wasting my time. Human
Right.
psychology is weird.
Yeah.
No, and
Very.
you're exactly right. I actually had a wonderful gimmick for this campaign, and it got shot down by a bunch of neurotypical people. But I think it could have been enough of a gimmick to get it way, way up and over. We'll never know now. The bottom line there, though, is next campaign, if this one fails,
God.
we'll institute more gimmicks. I was asked, do I want to be known for gimmicks or comics? The truth is, I want to be known for comics. But sometimes to be known for comics, you got to have some gimmicks to get the people to look at your comics. So
Sometimes, yeah.
I do think gimmicks are cool. As
What do
long
you
as they're
think?
backed by solid work, they're cool.
Well, I'm doing market research right now
That'll
because my gimmick that I'm gonna try to do is I've always liked magazines. Like I've been a big magazine
Mhm.
fan since I was a kid. I used to collect different magazines, so I want to bring back doing comics in like magazine form, and I'm gonna put out like a Next Dynamis Chaos like comic and pulp mag that's like 96 pages
Oh,
of
cool.
stuff like that with like a couple features, a pulp feature, and some comic shorts and stuff in there as well. But before I even get close to that, I've got a reader interest survey, which is also a reminder everyone watching that you only have a couple days left to fill out that reader interest survey. And I'm doing marketing analysis. Like I'm actually trying to figure out like what my market is, what the reach is, what people want in the book and stuff like that. So I think more people need to hop out there and be ready to do some type of like market analysis and also try to find and figure out their demographic before jumping into projects. It's one of the things that is on the publishing side of things, and a lot of indie creators forget that they are also their own publisher and they need to be doing the marketing work that the publisher would have been
Yes.
doing for them.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And that's one of the biggest things that I learned in school is that it's great you have this story, but who's your audience? Who is your like who are you writing this book for? Because if you don't know that, your book is going to stay on your laptop or in your like it's not going to go anywhere because who are you going to market it to? And so I think for us, that's one of the biggest areas that we have lacked in seriously for the last 2 years that I've been in school. Like that's been my focus between school and work, like our day jobs, and then trying to do some stuff for Hero Shack and edit Chris's books. But now
Yeah.
that's where I need to really focus on doing a lot of research on, what is our targeted audience. I know for Chris, when I talked to him
I think
about
we
it,
should start buying commercials on football games.
there you go. That's what his answer is to me,
I
madam.
want to do that.
He'll
I
say,
really
well,
want to
my
do that.
books are for everybody. I'm like, you know what? Your books are not for everybody. Okay. They're not for every person in the world. They're for a
They
comic
can't
book.
be, literally.
They cannot be. Some of the books that he has written are would not consider kid friendly, maybe an older teen. Although Chris has a different perspective on that as well. So we have a
Yeah,
lot
I
of things to
see.
iron.
He probably shares the perspective I do because growing up watching a lot of like anime and reading manga, their definition of what is and isn't kid friendly is different. So when I tell people like my webcomic is probably 15, safely 15 as an age,
Right.
but if I were to market to people in Japan, I could easily market it to 10-year-olds and it wouldn't necessarily be an issue.
They wouldn't even bat an eye back, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's crazy. But it's true though. I mean, honestly, you know, again, finding your audience, finding who you are making your comics for, I think is,
And your
and then
reader could
just
be you, because there's bound to be plenty of other people like you out there. But the problem is like
right.
figuring out where those people are so you can market to them.
Reach out, find them, and what demographic are they hiding in, and how do you get your message leaked in there and pull them out so they can check you out?
Right. It's a lot, and I think, that's one of the areas that I'll be focusing on, for
I
us.
hope so.
But in the meantime, we have this really great campaign going, and I'll be so disappointed if we don't make it.
33
Not
days. So I think in the next 3 days, I'll do a video and I'll upgrade the whole page. I'll put up some new artwork. I'll freshen it up.
Mhm.
Then I don't know. You'll just have to start hammering shows. We've been talking about going into larger shows and dropping some super chats and putting messages there.
I've
I
seen
know a
that
lot
work.
of the super chat.
There's
Yeah,
a
a lot
tea
of
company that I
super chat
like that
guys are
I
happy to do it.
only found out because they were using Nick Rekida's stream and super chats to market their tea company. It's called the Dragon's Treasures. Like, so it works in some realms. You just find like the show that has the audience you're looking for and just start advertising through that way.
right, right,
There's
right.
George. Oh, what's his name? George of Joe Cool. Is that his name? Oh, Joe
George
King.
Gas.
Joe King.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Joe
Okay,
King,
okay,
Joe Gaston, George Gastus. He does that. He goes into chats all over the place. He just starts dropping whatever he's promoting at the time, and then he's out
right,
and he moves on to the next one. He just he'll chat surf. I think we need to do some of that because one of the things I've heard is nobody knows who we are, so they're less apt to go in there. Like the guy's
Yeah.
gone, know who you are, and so I wouldn't go there normally. Oh, he
mhm,
said one of the ways to increase, your exposure is just to go into chats of, where comic book fans are and just start chatting a little, throw a little message in there.
Yeah, it also makes
yeah,
you
I
more
don't think
likely
it
to
works
show up
everywhere
on
because if you don't
people's
have a
show
wrench,
because if you super chat, then they start to recognize your name and they're like, "Oh, hey, I know you. Let me invite you on my
right.
show now." Like you have to like get your foot in the door sometimes. Yeah.
Well, that's where I feel like now I can do that. Now I can spend the time to search out some of the bigger names, the bigger indie names, and not necessarily. Chris is talking super chats. I just want to start listening and learning because I feel like just there's a lot of drama in indie comics, and I'm not one to gravitate towards that. But
Same.
yet there's a lot of wisdom from people that have made it bigger, and you know, I can glean some I can learn from them, and that's
Yeah.
really what I want to start doing. And in doing that, making comments or asking questions, people will begin to know who I am and who Hero Shack
Yeah,
is
and it
what I
doesn't have to
feel
be
like.
super chats, like, but just even being in the chat sometimes, interacting with other
Right,
people, even if the person on the stream doesn't recognize you, there's other people who have
right,
shows that are often in other people's
exactly.
chats and stuff too. You got to become
And
familiar to
that's
people.
exactly. And that is something that we have not spent a lot of time doing. We really haven't. We've done our show faithfully Wednesday night. We had our Monday night. I do a draw stream on Monday night. And where I have Chris and Terry, and Rick come
Rick.
on. Anybody usually, anybody that wants to draw can come on, and I just sort of like highlight their works that they're doing, and I don't draw.
Be
It's just
warned if you come on and you don't normally draw, Diana will force you to draw. Ask Tim from
I do it.
Melvin.
They
Yeah,
drew,
she made him draw because
So
Go
I
ahead.
sometimes come up with a theme. So this past week, I said, all right, a theme, a theme. Okay, so the only thing that was on my mind is graduating. So I'm very excited about it. I said, so draw somebody celebrating graduation. So it was Chris, who I still haven't gotten your picture, sir, and Terry, who sent me his little picture and put it on my Facebook page, and Rick, who I haven't seen his, and Tim just drew his on a piece of paper and showed it to me. But so I'm trying to come up with different themes for when people pop in, say, okay, this is the theme if you want to just again something fun to do, give a fun sort of drawing prompt to other creators that want to come and hang out. No, we do those two shows, but I personally haven't popped into other shows, and I know that's something that I'm going to start doing um very soon. Right
Guys.
right after graduation.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to say this, but I'm starting to fade. I'm trying to stay awake.
No, that's
I
fine.
know it's
I'm
almost
about
10
to close the show out for us because we actually did
All right.
over an hour
I
and
hate
40.
to say that, bro.
So.
I'm just sitting here. I'm starting to yawn, and I'm like, I can turn off the camera, but then I'll fall asleep.
Christopher, you're not allowed to speak. Metal's going to close the show. It's
Yeah.
his show. Let him speak.
Yeah. Okay. So. Thank you
Mute
guys for
him.
coming on. I'm glad I got to show off your campaign. Hopefully, it will get you some backers. You'll be able to know if it came from here if they click on either the link I dropped in chat. I don't know if Rick just copied the same one from the description below,
Okay.
or the
Very
description
cool.
below, because it is the link for specifically my Indiegogo user. So if you see anything
Okay.
that's from redirected from Malcolm Terzek or anything, you'll know it came from the show specifically, and you'll be able to see
Okay.
if it helped your
Nice.
reach at all.
It's
And
me. Yeah,
thank you all for
Thank
watching.
you.
If you enjoyed the show, please share it with somebody else. Please go back their book. And if you really enjoyed the show, you can also consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/vomitorium live. I'd like to have more people on here more often promoting their stuff. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.